ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। President Mr. Sandeep Naik, Secretary Dr. Santosh Patil, and members of Rotary Club Main of Belgaum. And of course, I am very happy to be here in your midst. This is not the first time I am here in this hall. I have come here on many occasions in the past, and it has always been a pleasant experience. Maybe on some occasions it was some other Rotary Club or some other, I'm not sure exactly, but I have been here many times. I was requested to speak on the topic Geopolitics and the crisis of war in the world. Admittedly, I am not an expert on this topic. There are practical perspectives that could be better given by commentators in geopolitics and by historians and such people. But nevertheless, I am reasonably aware of what is going on in the world, as much as any of us, because we read the newspapers, we hear the news. I don't hear on TV, but I see on the newspaper. And therefore it is important that we all have some perspective on what is going on in the world around us. So as a practitioner of the spiritual path, I will attempt to offer a spiritual perspective to this subject. I will not get into the details of the different aspects of the wars that are going on at present, and there are several wars which are simultaneously going on. So that is not my department, so to speak. But definitely I will try to give some broad, general, spiritual perspectives, especially from the point of view of the Bhagavad Gita. The first and most important point to note is, of course, that this is not the first time that such wars are happening, and certainly it is not the last time. They will keep happening. If one studies the history of this world, one will see that there has never been a century in recorded human history, perhaps for the last many centuries, that there has been no wars. Every century has seen major wars and many minor wars. So what is happening now is not particularly noteworthy. What is noteworthy is that it is happening in our lifetime. And what is also noteworthy is that now technology has become so sophisticated that the means of warfare are quite different from the warfare that existed several hundred years ago. But the basic root causes of war have not changed. Very simply, because this world doesn't change that much. In terms of human nature remains the same. Whether it is the 10th century AD, 10th century BC, whether it is 20th century AD or BCE or ACE. Human nature being the same and conflict being ingrained in the psyche or the mind of human beings, it is natural that wars come about. Just look at the previous century, the 20th century. We had two big world wars, World War I, World War II. India itself has fought so many wars in the last century. And if you look at all spectrum, all areas of the spectrum of political ideology, religious ideology, wars have happened everywhere. Sometimes people blame religion only for wars. And they say that religion is the cause of war. So therefore we should ban religion. Some people think like that. However, if you look at the previous century, to give only one example, one can go on and on with multiple examples. World War I, World War II, both were fought amongst nations that had the same religion, except for Japan in the Second World War. But they fought, despite being of the same religion. Soviet Union at that time, communist country, they fought wars externally, but also very importantly, they fought wars internally. Stalin, he was the dictator of Soviet Union. It is estimated that he killed anything from 2 million to 6 million of his own countrymen. He slaughtered them, and because they differed with his opinion, because he saw them as threats to his political power. So much for communists and their equality in society and so on. So sometimes I'm wonderstruck why people name their children after Stalin. It is a surprise. When somebody like that has killed millions of his own people, then look at Mao Zedong in China. It is estimated that because of him, 50 to 60 million of his own countrymen were killed or they died. Look at another communist regime, Pol Pot in Cambodia, another few million killed. Even look at the current world, North Korea. Then look at the capitalist world. We should not think only the communists are the bad ones who have been killing and perpetrating violence. The capitalists have been killing. Look at the history of the 20th century. How many wars have been fueled by the capitalist countries to foster their own business interests for the sake of oil or minerals or gold or power or money and whatnot. So the capitalists are killing, the communists are killing, the atheists are killing, the religionists are killing. Some people are the aggressors and therefore they are killing. Some people are defending themselves and therefore they are killing. But killing is going on. Wars are going on. It has been going on from time immemorial. And unless humanity takes a major turning point in terms of awakening of spiritual consciousness, this trend will unfortunately continue. In the Puranas, and especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, wars have been compared to a forest fire. Forest fires sometimes, even in America, Australia, they can start all of a sudden for no perceivable reason. You cannot identify when, how, where the forest fire starts. And it usually starts in summer, when the vegetation, the trees, etc. are tinder dry, so they catch fire very fast. Even one spark is sufficient. And then when the spark is lit, then it spreads. So we have a saying in English that the news spread like wildfire. Yes, we are all familiar with the term. The wildfire refers to these forest fires. Once it starts, nobody can stop them. Even in America and Australia in recent years, we're not talking of centuries ago, in the last 10 years, there have been such devastating forest fires that with all their technology, all their economic might, they have not been able to subdue those fires. So wars are like that. They suddenly start for some reason and they just engulf everybody. So why does a forest fire start? Very rarely is it triggered by human beings. Mostly, according to environmentalists and others who are familiar with this, forestry specialists, it starts in the hot season when the winds are blowing at high speed and the trees are very dry, and especially in the bamboo forest. And because of the wind, which is also dry, and there is friction amongst the bamboos or the branches of the tree, and they rub, and that is how ancient people used to start fire, by rubbing stones or any dry substances. And suddenly, out of nowhere, for no apparent reason, a spark is lit. And because everything is dry, the trees, the leaves, the vegetation that carpet the ground are tinder dry. So even at the first whiff, it immediately blasts into a fire. And sometimes the fire can be at that level for weeks together without being detected. And then when it gets detected, it is too late to stop it. So, similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam says that the violent passions of human beings acts like that wind that with high velocity. And people who are devoid of any spiritual consciousness, niras, ras means when you have the nectar or experience of higher happiness of spiritual life. Niras means without that experience, without that happiness. When the heart is full of all these negative emotions like hatred, anger, greed, envy, and so on and so forth, a person becomes very dry. So such dry people will conflict with each other. Suddenly some disagreement will start and immediately there is some conflagration. Many times on the street also, I have seen it with my own eyes in many places. Suddenly two people bump into each other, something, they start an argument, immediately big fight breaks out. And sometimes communal riots also start because of that. Just one small incident. Suddenly it's a whole big fire. So ultimately the root cause of wars, the root cause of violence, of cruelty, of all negativities in this world, whether it is terrorism, whether it is family conflict, interpersonal conflict, any kind of conflict, small or big, is because of the violent passions within the human heart. I will now introduce a concept from the Bhagavad Gita to explain this better. Most of you may be aware of the concept of the triguna of the Bhagavad Gita. Tri means three and guna means qualities. So the Bhagavad Gita says that this whole world is characterized by three primary qualities. They are called sattva, rajas and tamas. So Lord Krishna goes on to explain that sattva is called the mode of goodness, rajas is the mode of passion, and tamas is the mode of ignorance. So everything in this world can be analyzed according to these three characteristics or qualities. Usually these things will appear in a mixture. So you will not find something that is pure sattva, pure rajas, pure tamas, but it will be mixed. So what does he mean by sattva, rajas, tamas? It's a very deep concept, a very useful conceptual tool to analyze the world and to analyze people and to analyze anything and everything in this world. But let me illustrate the terms by giving you some very simple words that will immediately click in your mind as to what sattva is, rajas and tamas is. For sattva, mode of goodness, I will just speak some words. Number one, calmness, stability, peace, happiness, kindness, mercy and compassion, knowledge, light. So you are getting the point. I can go on with many, many words like this. Being satisfied, eating everything in moderation, living a moderate lifestyle. So this is sattva. When somebody is characterized by sattva, you will see that that person is contented, is calm, is reasonably happy. Not that problems will not happen in his life, but he is more or less satisfied. Rajas, the mode of passion, as the word passion indicates, can be characterized by words like desire, passion, greed, the urge for wealth, enjoyment, ambition, anxieties. Vikshepa. Vikshepa means, how to put in English, it is agitation of the mind, always anxious, always agitated. So this is rajas. Someone who is always restless, always active, more money, more enjoyment. Yes, more. Ye dil mange more. Rajas. As far as tamas, sleep, laziness, ignorance, uncleanliness, intoxication, extreme violence, extreme cruelty. This characterizes tamas. So we can analyze everything of this world from the perspective of these three gunas. We can even analyze human beings, their thoughts, their emotions, their behavior, their personalities according to these three gunas. So we will say, here is a very sattvic personality. Here is a very rajasic personality. Or you look at somebody who is drunk and fallen on the street, you say, here is a tamasic personality. As I said earlier, these three gunas don't exist in isolation. They will be always in some mixture. So a sattvic person will also have some rajas and tamas mixed. And a tamasic person will also have some other gunas mixed in him. So when we speak of wars and crime and such negative things, they are fueled by the prominence of rajas and tamas in the heart of individuals. When the modes of passion and ignorance, they predominate, when people become very rajasic and tamasic, then it is very easy for the friction to happen, rubbing each other, two people, two leaders, two countries, two communities, anything. They will rub, the sparks will fly, soon there will be a fire. So in this way, the violent passions of human beings are causing all sorts of disturbance. Wars are only one type of disturbance, the external big wars about which we are reading in the press these days. That is only one symptom, one type. But there are innumerable other types of violent activities that are going on. Rapes are going on, and abuse of various sorts is going on. So therefore, when the modes of passion and ignorance are very strong, then there is war within. When there is war within, there will be war outside also. So if one wants to stop the war outside, one has to stop the war inside, first of all. If one wants peace outside, first we must get peace inside. So without that, it is not possible. So the path of spirituality or Bhagavad Gita is meant for not just peace, but to give us some higher understanding of life. So that not only can we avoid the Rajasic and Tamasic, not only can we just be situated in Sattva, but go beyond Sattva to the spiritual platform. That is the only solution. Otherwise we may have agreements, talks, ceasefires, and so many such arrangements, but very soon again something will spark off. We have seen that happening in geopolitics all the time. Agreements don't last very long. So this is a very, very important point to note, that it is the predominance of the Rajas and Tamas in the hearts of individuals that is erupting in various forms, including war. Sometimes it erupts in the form or through the medium of religion, sometimes through the medium of political ideology, like America, Soviet Union. At that time, they were in a cold war of political ideologies. Sometimes for ethnic reasons, sometimes for reasons of language or community, or it could be anything. So the underlying factor is the violent passions of the human being. Unless that is rectified, these wars will not stop. And from the point of view of our Shastras, our scriptures, there is another perspective or another reason that can be given for these wars. Now this may be a little controversial, but nevertheless, I think it is important to state it. Our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, he says, citing the Puranas and the Upanishads, that when one commits violence to anybody else, that violence will come back to us. This is the law of karma, karma siddhanta. So if we do good to somebody, somewhere, somehow that good will come back to you. If you harm somebody, somewhere, somehow that harm will come back to you. So if we are killing, then somebody will kill us in future at some point. So what do I mean by killing? Even killing animals. Today, even in India, we may think that India is a vegetarian country. It is not. Vegetarians in India also are a minority. I don't think it is more than 25%. Just my rough estimate, I'm not sure. Maybe less than that even. So when we kill poor, innocent, helpless animals who deserve our protection, our care and our love, and instead of protecting them, we mercilessly kill them, and we kill them in large numbers, by the millions every single day, in very big organized slaughterhouses. All kinds of animals are slaughtered in numbers that we cannot even imagine. And our Shastras say that killing any animal is extremely sinful and will generate very strong reactions. But amongst all of them, killing the cow generates the strongest karmic reaction. So when one mercilessly slaughters animals, and especially the cows, the karmic reaction will come back to the entire society in ways that we cannot even imagine. Entire generations of societies may get slaughtered. That is what happens in war. Large numbers of people at one time, they get destroyed. So when we kill innocent animals, when we do not display any mercy or kindness or compassion on those who are weak, then that karmic reaction will come in the form of wars, in the form of crime, in the form of slaughter, in the form of various forms of conflict. So therefore, at least if the world comes to its senses and stops this cruelty, wars will not stop. As far as I am concerned, I represent a school of thought or a belief, the path of bhakti, where we very strongly believe that one should not kill animals. This is a very important thing, because killing animals and eating is considered a very tamasic activity. And that, just imagine what happens in a slaughterhouse. We may eat meat in the hotel or in our house because we buy ready-made from the shop. We do not see the animal getting killed. We do not see the cruelty that is inflicted on the poor animal as it cries in fear. Do you think the cow or the goat or chicken does not feel fear? The animals also want to live as much as we want to live. And I have seen some videos in which some person is raising some cows and goats so that he can sell to the slaughterhouse. The animals live in the house and the shed, and the children, they have become so attached to these animals, they are playing with them and they have become like their family members. And when the time comes for them to be sold, the children are hugging the animals and not letting them go. And the father has to pull them away and then send the animal to the slaughterhouse. The animal also doesn't want to go. So cruelty begets cruelty. Violence begets violence. Killing begets killing. If we are going to continue killing and slaughtering animals like this, even humans nowadays, then all the more we will find wars and such conflicts increasing. And our Shastras also say, what to speak of killing animals? Nowadays, there is something called Bruna Hatya, where the embryo is killed. The mother is killing her own child. And nowadays it can happen as late as 24, 25 weeks. In the Supreme Court, there is a case of 27 weeks. I don't know whether they allowed or not, but so there may be so many reasons given for that. But killing animals is one thing, it is bad enough. But when the human being starts killing his or her own children in the womb, then what more can we expect? How much more violent reaction will come in terms of the karma? So therefore, these are some thoughts. And unless we make our life more spiritual, more devotional, and we follow at least a reasonably sattvic life, we cannot hope that the world will become a place free of war, crime, and conflict. So this is the main message, and this is the basic reason why these things are happening, and the solution also lies here, in the fundamental change of mentality, of mindset, of thinking, of behavior, of habits, of consciousness, and we cultivate the path of devotion to God as explained by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Then we will see that gradually the society will become calmer. As the individual becomes calmer, the family will become calmer, the society will become calmer, the world will become calmer. At this point, how the current wars that are going on can be solved, I cannot offer practical solutions. As I said, that is for people who are more knowledgeable in these areas to speak about. But I have attempted to offer to you a spiritual perspective on the matter of wars and geopolitics and why it happens and what we can do to prevent these in the future. So I will stop here because I think I have exceeded my time limit. So thank you all very much. for your patient hearing.